I'm going to be doing glow plugs on a 2000 Ford F350 with 7.3 power stroke. It's just becoming hard starting, even when it's 50 degrees out, 60 degrees. It takes quite a bit of cranking to get going. And at first I put a new glow plug relay. It's actually the updated White Rogers relay, which outputs 200 amps versus a 60 amp output of the stock relay. And it helped a little bit, but it's still pretty hard starting. So I pinned or I ohmed between the glow plug pins on the connector on the valve cover harness, and yeah, some of them are bad. So on the Superduties, you have to remove these charge pipes on the intercooler, and stuff's a little bit tighter in here versus the like my 97 F250 here. It's not as tight, and there's no intercooler. So these OBS forwards are non-intercooled, unless of course you have added an intercooler into it. But besides just getting the valve covers off, it's pretty much the same process. I've done glow plugs on this, and then I got the White Rogers glow plug relay too, and it really makes for a great combination on this thing. So I'm gonna be doing that on this one. But yeah, so first thing, intercooler pipes, and then I'm probably gonna do the driver's side first. I'm gonna start taking all this off, and then the crankcase vent, and start pulling the glow plugs out. Okay, so I got the driver's side valve cover off, everything around it. To take all this apart, not too bad. For the intercooler tube, it's an 11 millimeter, or you could use a 7/16 to take the clamps loose on the boots, and then you can slide that out of the way. And then there's some hose clamps for this intake, and on the valve cover there is the CCV piece, which is right there, and that's held on by some 8 millimeter head bolts, or actually 6 millimeter bolts, but 8 millimeter head. And there's a little boot that comes up. You can, in my case, I ended up just kind of twisting the clamp back and forth till it broke, and I'm just gonna use a hose clamp on it. And after that, you can pull off the bracket that holds the CCV on. It's right here. Just some 13 millimeter nuts on the studs, so then you can pull that off. And then the rest is just some 13 millimeter head bolts and studs, and you kind of just remember where they go. The studs go on top to hold that bracket up that I just showed. And to get to the one on the way back on the driver's side, you can use a 1/4 inch with a 13 shallow on it. And if you just kind of lay across the engine bay or have a topside creeper, you can get back there and get that bolt out. And then for the rest, you can just use a deep 13 and a ratchet, or an electric ratchet. But now what I need to do is, there is oil, not that one because I blew it out, but the glow plugs, there's actually oil surrounding them, so when you pull them out, all the oil is going to go down the cylinder. So what you want to do ideally is have an air compressor that you can use and blow those out with an air gun. But in this case, I do not have access to air compressor right now, so I'm just going to use an electronic duster. Make sure you hold it upright, not upside down, and just try to blow it out around the each glow plug. So after blowing it out, you can see that there is all the oil that was around that glow plug is now spread elsewhere. So I can now go ahead and use the 10mm deep 1/4" socket and loosen that. All right, so taking the glow plugs out here, you can use a 1/4" ratchet or 3/8, and 10mm 1/4" deep socket, and I have an extension on it, makes it easier. And you can loosen the glow plugs enough to where you can pull them out either with some skinny pliers, or what you can do is you can get an 1/8" piece of vinyl tubing or whatever you want, and you can stick it on the end and kind of unthread it. Makes it easy. In this case, I don't have any right now. The thinner the socket though, the definitely the better, because this kind of wants to jam up against the rocker. So the thinner the 10mm socket, the better, but you just loosen them, and then you can go ahead and just grab them up here from the top and then just pull it out. So when you start threading this out, what I found works good is start to try to pull the socket off and just have it so it barely hits the glow plug to thread out. So what I mean by that is pull it off till it barely hits the hex shank part in here, like the very top in here, to where you can twist it one way so that it doesn't get bound up on this push rod and rocker arm. So like right here, kind of wants to get bound up, so I can pull it off enough. I don't know if you can see that, and I can just barely turn it there to get it past that. So you just have to find a fine balance. The thinner the socket, generally, the better. So in this case, it's all threaded out, so then you just have to get it past that. So you kind of have to work it around, and you don't want your socket to get stuck. So just have to work it around to get that out. Like that. And then you can take the pair of needle nose pliers, and you can pull that glow plug out just like that. So now you can take your new glow plug, and this is where that piece of 1/8" or so vinyl tubing, 1/8" inner diameter is what I mean. And you can slip it over this, and you can thread it down in there easy, because it's kind of hard to get your fingers in there if you really can at all. So so then you just put the new glow plug in, and you can take the socket, and then this is where the kind of getting it past that upper lip of the hex part, and then now I can see it drops right down. So you know, the biggest thing is just getting it past here. So then you can go ahead and thread that in by hand once I have all 4 of them in there. So now I just need to get that last one, number 8. Okay, so the torque spec is 14 foot-pounds for each glow plug, which equates to about 168 inch-pounds, and I'm doing about 165. So now you can just come down here and torque these things down. So on these valve cover gaskets, the insulation is pretty bad, and you can see the bare wire several different spots, and that at some point is going to start causing misfire and be problematic. So I decided, well, I'll just get a new gasket for it. So I got two of them, Dorman 615-201s. Now online people seem to say that these kind of do the same thing as this, but I don't know, I guess we'll see. Not ideal, I'd rather get the Motorcraft ones, but right now I don't have $380 to spend on the Motorcraft set of valve cutter gaskets and harnesses. So hopefully this will last a decent while. Now, something worth noting here is on the glow plugs, you always want to use Motorcraft glow plugs for this. You don't want to use the cheap ones because they like to swell up, and that causes trouble when you try to change them out, and they don't want to pull out, or they will break down and fall down into the cylinder. So always use Motorcraft glow plugs. Also, get them from a reputable source, because there is counterfeit Motorcraft glow plugs out there. And I think as of now, you can kind of tell if they are or not. I think the counterfeit ones don't have this barcode, or at least it used to be that way. But try to get them from a good source so you know they're real, because there's a lot of scams, and you could get counterfeit plugs, glow plugs. So, but yeah, get this back together. Okay, now with all the glow plugs installed, I can put the new valve cover gasket on it and make sure that none of the wires are pinched underneath as I start to put the bolts back in for the valve cover. Also, another thing I noticed, and something you could look at when you are in here, is on these Superduty trucks, there was a TSB for a number 8 injector, which they ended up changing it to a AE injector code. It's a long lead, and that was to eliminate some of the noise that number 8 has, because it's the last injector in line. So the long lead was supposed to delay that and kind of eliminate some of that cackle and kind of knock, but this one does not have it. Just has AD injector code, so this has never had the TSB done to it. The later 7.3s just came factory with the AE injector, but it doesn't surprise me on this 2000 that looks like all the injectors are original. Okay, so new valve cover gaskets on. Like I said, you want to make sure that none of these wires get pinched underneath, so you want to shove them that way. And there's these little kind of tab pieces on the other side of the gasket, and those always go down into the valve cover gasket. But at this point, I'm pretty much ready to put the valve cover back on. Okay, this is about to be a short. Those two wires are rubbing on the valve cover here, so stop that before it even happened. All right, it's all back together. Now I just gotta do the other side. Okay, so for the passenger side, there's a clamp down here for the intercooler tube, and there's one up here. And I found that if you take the two screws here loose, you can move this wiring out of the way, and you can bring it past this, and you can start to push the end down enough until you clear, and then you can pull it straight out. Is what I found was easiest for that. And then after that, you can start to move these heater hoses out of the way. So those just pull off the studs. Looks like the 2 studs go there and there. And then you can pull those off and start to get to the other bolts. All right, to get the valve cover off the passenger side, pull all the bolts out. And then, like I said, you got to move everything around. But what I ended up having to do is take these bolts, 10mm head out of the AC compressor, and then you can pick it up and kind of, as far as you can, move it over here with this disconnected. And you can move it out of the way enough that you can kind of slide the valve cover off. It's a little bit tricky, but you can get it. All right, so all the glow plugs are in, got the new harness on. Now I just gotta put the valve cover back on. And yeah. Okay, so I dipped down into the low 40s, I think upper 30s last night. 8 new Motorcraft glow plugs and White Rogers stand core type glow plug relay. The belt is gonna make noise, I know that. I need to put one on it, but I wanna see how it'll start here. So 7 of them ended up being bad. 7 out of the 8 glow plugs. And the one that was kind of okay wasn't great. All right, let's see if it'll start. Fires right up.